Good morning, book friends. It is time for a book recommendation video. Stay tuned. So, this video is going to be my book recommendations for my reading challenge this year. It is my biblical fiction reading challenge, and I have a graphic, and I'll link all of that below in case you missed it. This video, I'm just going to share some recommendations for February's prompt. So I'm hoping that I will have more recommendations for you as the year goes on. I'm still looking for new authors. I read a lot of the same authors just because I know that I enjoy their work, and I've had hit or misses with others. So in this video, I'm going to share some that I have read, and then I will share ones that I am hoping to get to. So let's go ahead and look at February's prompt. So in February, you are encouraged to read one of these books in the Bible. And again, you don't have to read these books for your devotions, but this is something that I would encourage, especially if you're reading a biblical fiction book based by one of those biblical stories, so you can kind of see what's scriptural and what is interpreted. But again, you don't have to. So we're going to read some of the Bible's history books, and so I did divide it up by the first part of the biblical history, and then March is going to be the second set of biblical history books. So this one, you have Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and 1st and 2nd Kings. So these books, I have about 4 to share with you physically, and then I will show pictures for others. So one that I'm going to recommend is from one of my personal favorite authors, and that is Tessa Afshar. And so the first one is going to be the first book I've ever read from her, and that is In the Field of Grace. And this is a retelling of the story of Ruth. So if you are not familiar with this story, Ruth is a Moabite woman who marries into this Hebrew family, and her mother-in-law is mentioned in this book as well. So what ends up happening is that her mother-in-law Naomi not only loses her husband, but she also loses both her sons. And so she encourages both her daughter-in-laws to go back to their father's home so that they can remarry and not feel like they are tied to Naomi, and Naomi's going to return back to her homeland. And one of the daughter-in-law leaves, and Ruth is known to go with her mother-in-law. And the famous line in there, where you go, I'll go, where you lodge, I will lodge, your people will be my people, like the famous line that we usually hear at weddings. It comes from the verse from this story in the Bible. So that's basically the start of Ruth in the Bible, and it's such a short story. It's got 4 chapters in the Bible. It could be easily read in a day. But so story goes, Ruth goes with her mother-in-law, and it's just a beautiful picture of friendship, and the story just goes from there. So this is very, very emotional. You have each chapter starting off with a scripture and then the story, and I just loved this book. The romance was wonderful, and I just teared up reading towards the ending of this book. So love it. And this book I actually have reread twice, and so that's how good it is. So 5-star, love it. The second Tessa Afshar book I'm going to talk about is Pearl in the Sand, and this is the beautiful 10th anniversary edition, and this is a Rahab retelling. And so you will find her story in the book of Joshua. So Rahab is a prostitute that lives in Jericho, and this is right before the Israelites come and march around Jericho and the walls fall down. And her story, she ends up saving some Hebrew spies, and she, in addition to saving them, she asks them to remember her and to spare her. And they mention, put this scarlet cord outside your window, and any family member that stays with you in the house, make sure that they don't leave at all when we come to destroy Jericho, and you guys will be spared, essentially. And so this story talks about Rahab and her coming into prostitution through to the walls of Jericho falling down, and then afterwards with her life with the Israelites. So highly recommend this one. I know that this has been part of Katie's readathon that she did last year, and so that was my second time rereading this book, and it still holds up to its 5 stars. Absolutely love it. Again, this one I got misty-eyed, and it's just wonderful. So recommend that one. Okay, the next author I'm going to talk about is Conalyn Cassett. This one, A Light on the Hill, is basically the start of her Cities of Refuge series. And so I'll tell you the story first, and then I'll tell you how it connects to one of these history books in the Bible. But you follow a woman named Moriah, and right off the bat, her story begins with her being branded on her face by these Canaanites, and the brand signifying like one of their Canaanite gods. What ends up happening is that she just covers up her face because she doesn't want people to look at her, or they think she's she's defiled and everything. So she's pretty much isolated. An opportunity comes for her to marry this widower and to take care of his sons. Something horribly goes wrong, which causes her to flee for her life to one of these cities of refuge. So that's the gist of this story. Now, I say this would count for the February prompt because the cities of refuge are mentioned in the history books of the Bible, and what those are is anyone who unintentionally commits a murder can run to this place. I don't know if it's for other crimes as well, but you can run to this place because if you've done someone wrong, their family member can come and avenge them, and if you rent to this place, it's basically a safe place for you until you stand trial, essentially. So it is mentioned in scripture. Exactly remember which book of the Bible you first see it, but also in this book you hear about Joshua, and so my thought process was this is probably taking place in the book of Joshua. So I'm going to count it because he is mentioned quite a few times in here. So, okay. The next one I'm going to mention is the second book in that series, and I have not read this book yet, but this is on my TBR to read, and that is Shelter of the Most High. So I will read to you from the synopsis, and that's why I'm looking over here. So it says, the daughter of a pagan high priest, Sophia finds solace from her troubles in the freedom of the ocean. But when the marauders attack the village on the island of Sicily, she and her cousin are taken across the sea to the shores of Canaan. Etan has lived in Kadesh, a city of refuge, for the last 11 years, haunted by a tragedy in his childhood, yet chafing at the boundaries placed on him. He's immediately captivated by Sophia, but revealing his most guarded secret would mean drawing her into the danger of his past. So I'm going to stop right there, but that is the second in the series. And again, you follow like this storyline, so I feel like there's not a lot of time that passes between the first and the second book, my understanding, so I'm going to say it counts. The next book I'm going to talk about is also from Connell & Cassett, and this is a start of a new series, and it's called Voice of the Ancient. So this is from the King's Men series, and it says, as eldest son of a Levite and a Philistine, Avidan is torn between his duty to his family legacy and the desire for something more. After an enemy attack strikes close to home, he takes the opportunity to fight with his cousins for the newly crowned king Saul. But when one of the cousins goes missing during the battle, Avidan refuses to leave him behind. Kezia is the daughter of one of the most powerful clan chiefs in the territory of Manasseh. On the brink of a forced marriage to a loathsome man decades older than her, she has no choice but to run, hoping to find sanctuary with her mother's family. So, I'm going to stop there. And this mentioned King Saul, which happens to be mentioned in the book of Samuel. The last Connell & Cassett book that I will mention is another book from a new series, and this is called the Covenant House series. It says, 8 years ago, Philistines surrendered the stolen Ark of the Covenant back to the Israelites. Eliora and her brother left their Philistine homeland to follow it to the community of Kiryat Yearim. Though they both were lovingly enfolded into a Levite family that guards the ark, Eliora can't stop feeling like she doesn't belong. Meanwhile, a faction of discontent Hebrews finds Kiryat Yearim to be an unfitting resting place and believes that the sacred vessel should be in the hands of the priest who mean to restore the Holy of Holies in a new location. Under the guise of gathering Hebrews to worship together for the festivals, Levite musician Ronan has been sent by his uncle to find where the ark has been hidden and steal it back. But Ronan never expected the Philistine girl he rescued years ago would now be part of the very family he's tasked to deceive. So this, I will put the scripture here because I did not write down the scripture, but the key word is the Philistine had the Ark of the Covenant and then sent it back to Israel. And so that's the timeline that I looked at. So again, there it is in the scriptures right there. So this would count. Last but certainly not least, I found my book, A Lineage of Grace by Francine Rivers. And Alma actually mentioned this in one of her videos. So thank you, Alma, for mentioning it. I totally forgot about this. But this has 5 stories of women in the Bible. So the 5 women are Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary. So here you have Rahab and Ruth, who I did mention earlier, and basically it's like a devotional sort of thing. It's like a study, but basically it's just deep diving into the lives of these women, and I haven't gone through it yet. This is on my list to go through, but currently I actually have picked up this book. Haven't started it yet, but I want to start it within the week or next week. Still working out some details because I want to do a women's Bible study with this. So I'm still working out those details, but it'll take about a year, and then my next hope is to pick up this one afterwards. So that's the plan, and we shall see. So alright, I hope you enjoyed the video and you got some ideas. And again, I'm always open to hear more from you guys about any books that I would personally like and look through. I will try to find more people outside of my realm from Tessa Afshar and Connell & Cassett, but there are a lot of books that they have written. And then of course I found Misu Andrews, and so I'll be looking more at her works. But anyway, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Let me know what you are reading, what books that you are planning to pick up for this month coming up, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye.